Forward. All right, guys, welcome to the Ice Cut podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dana, with my other co-host, Casey.
Sorry, hold on.
What's up?
That
You
connected to my phone. Hold on.
Technical difficulties. It's fine. It's fine.
I was like, I can't hear anything. Oh my God. I was like, what's going on?
She glitched.
Okay, we'll get
edit
like
that out.
expensive to edit that. We'll cut that.
Okay, we'll edit that in
Okay.
post-production.
Start over.
All right, guys, so welcome to the Ice Cut podcast. My name is Dana. I'm one of your hosts with my other co-host, Casey.
Hey guys.
And we are joined today by one of our other best friends. This is Alice. She skated with us on Sky. She is one, like we said in the last podcast, like we have a group of friends that like literally talk about skating all the time. She's part of that group. So we decided on episode number 2 that we were going to bring her in so she could talk about skating with us. It's going to be a good time.
Hi, everybody.
So Alice, how long did you skate with all of us? And you've known Casey longer than you've known me. So like tell a little bit about your background in skating and like how you met both of us.
Yeah, I skated with both Casey, Dana, from 2017 to 2020 on Sky Senior. And I met Casey originally on Team Excel out in Boston when we were both in college and freshmen. So that's how I originally knew kind of both co-hosts here. But I originally started skating out in Western Massachusetts for a really small synchro club. And I skated on Open Juve for way too long. And then when I went to college, skated kind of a combination of senior and collegiate and adult. So then after college, I transitioned to senior and then kind of never looked back.
Love that.
We call her all the ice.
Yes.
But yeah, so our plan today, we kind of talked about like what the goal of our podcast was the last time, but this time we're going to kind of like really get into it. Like talk about the junior teams, talk about the senior teams, talk about senior Elite 12, kind of like what they look like, how many teams are in each division, and then like recap what has happened domestically and then go into international season because we're halfway through international season right now. So the goal is to like talk about what has happened, where people kind of stand, what we think might happen in terms of like world team status for junior, senior, because it's all up in the air. But like these again are just our predictions, and then go into like different Challenger Series events that are happening. So, Casey, let's talk about the junior teams.
Okay, so we also don't want to like waste your entire day on this podcast. We're gonna try and keep it like like timely. So I'm going to blow through these real quick. So our junior USA teams this year, we've got all 9, I think it is, all 9 junior teams qualified for Team USA this year. And Team Image, Lexettes, Teams Elite, Fond du Lac Blades, DC Edge, Hawkettes, Northernettes, and Starlights all got USA assignments this year. First off, Northernettes have been killing it all season. Their entire organization has like, I think they're like way up there in novice. Their collegiate team was like over 100 points at mids. Like they've been like crushing it. So props to the Christie sisters for getting that organization like absolutely rolling. I know that's not exactly all junior news, but Northernettes, like props to you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, I personally skated on junior for a year. And Starlight's junior for a year. So I like have a little bit of like Midwest like home in me. So it's really fun to watch both of them like be really successful. But I will say, even though I skated for Sky for a long time, I'm not gonna lie, my favorite junior team this year right now is Teams Elite. And that might not be some people's like professional opinion, but I love them. Their short program this year slaps. It is so good.
I completely agree. I skated on Lexettes, so got a little bias there. And again, Skyliners, we're biased. We're not gonna lie, but I think Teams Elite is the best one. I think they got it in the bag. Like the long program, the whole snake charmer. You get like I never know how to say her name, Levito. The freestyle girl. You got her, and you got the Madison Chalk and Evan Bates with like the snake charmer thing, and like their short program. They look so good, so elegant. Like I don't know.
I think this year too, they've obviously had a big transition going from having Elite 12 and then to a junior team, and like that whole transition and like the kids changing between teams. I think this year, particularly for junior, they're really trying to play to the team that they have strength. They're not trying to be something they're not. They're trying to like actually just make everybody look like a unit. And that I think is something that a lot of times coaches don't really do. They like reach too far. But I think like with this, they just have kind of gotten it rolling from the beginning. And I think those programs are creative and look a little bit different and definitely their style, but is been fun to watch them this season.
Yeah.
Did you say Hawkettes?
No, it Teams Elite.
Oh, Teams Elite. Okay. Yeah. Also, oh, I completely lost what I was going to say. Never mind. Oh, I remember. Okay. I heard that they were having recruiting issues at the beginning of the year. Like they lost a lot of girls from their junior team and like they didn't have a huge tryout. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I heard it was like, at least they lost a lot of skaters. But so I wasn't expecting them to be like, to be as good as they are. So they absolutely have blown me away because I think they're better than they were the last few seasons.
Oh yeah. I think this is the strongest Teams Elite team that we have ever seen in junior so far. Like they've come out really strong before and they've had really, really incredible programs, but like their short program this year looks like a full-on senior team. Like in my opinion, they skate and they carry themselves as though they are a senior team. And like again, I'm very much a Sky Junior stan. Like I love Sky Junior. I think both of their programs are amazing this year. But I think the way that Teams Elite puts themselves out there and carries themselves this year, especially with that short, they put themselves in a different level. They really do. It's so good.
I think they also beat both Finlands last weekend, I'm pretty sure, right? Like the top two this year so far, or at least two of the really high level Finland teams. And as of right now, I believe they're in first place in Poland, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was just looking at that before we hopped on here. I was coming home from work. I sat down and then I opened it up and I saw that. I was like shocked. Not shocked in a bad way, but just like shocked. I was like, wow, like good for them. And obviously, like we've said, like definitely love Sky Junior. I think their short this year with Firebird is like such an amazing program. The first time I saw it in person, I was at pep rally for Sky and I literally was like tears streaming down my face. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so good. I just like cannot wait to see where this goes. Also just like a really iconic piece of music for skating in general. I feel like so many really great people have skated to that throughout history. And I was like texting Josh, I was like, this is so good. I'm so happy with this program. But for that to, you know, come into second from them, like it's gonna be exciting to watch nationals this year in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Firebird. I genuinely love that program a lot. So it's gonna be, yeah, I would agree. It's gonna be really interesting to watch both of those programs in short go back to back, probably to each other, because we all know how US figure skating plans things out. It's random, but like it feels like there's always a little bit of like a plan to it. So hopefully to watch them skate back to back and just absolutely crush junior would be so fun.
I completely agree. Nationals gonna be wild, and this is why they need to bring back JWQ. Like we would see the ultimate throwdown between Sky Junior, Team Image, like Lexettes, Teams Elite, Northernettes even this year, I think are way up there in the mix. Not to say the others aren't, but I think those ones have kind of like established themselves to be or like at least like Sky Image and Elite are a little bit higher. Although I do think that Team Image with their placement at the last international, I think that they might have counted them out for the world team. Does anyone know when that selection is being made or announced?
I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
Probably after this weekend at least. I wonder how, usually like the week before nationals. I think it was last year, right?
It's usually a little bit later, which is like kind of probably hard for the juniors to plan for. But I don't think anyone's going to the last event for the Challenger Series, which is the Marie Lomark Trophy in Finland. I don't think any of the top teams are going. So my guess is they have probably already established by like maybe in the next 2 weeks who they're going to send or what they want out of their international or like world junior teams. So my guess is they're probably going to find out in the next 2 weeks or so, but it's definitely before nationals because their events are Wednesday, Thursday at nationals, which is fun for them.
Go ahead, Alice.
Nope, I was gonna say, I mean, I would love to have been in high school and like missed that much school. Like right now I live in Boston and Newton public schools are going through a huge teacher strike. And I work as a physical therapist and I see it from all sides. Patients who are teachers, patients who are students, patients who like are trying to get their kids as parents to school. And it's just been like such a disaster kind of watching that unfold. But I was just like thinking about those kids not going to school and like actually being happy about it. Where right now my patients are like, I want to go back to school. I don't want to be in school until like July.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of laughing about that.
So
Okay, so for junior predictions, our world team, do we think it's gonna be Image and Sky, or sorry, we think it's gonna be Sky and Teams Elite?
Yeah.
personally, I think it's going to be Sky and Teams Elite. I think both of those teams have established themselves really, really well on the world stage, or not the world stage. Well, yes, the world stage, but also the international stage this season. That like, I think they're the two strongest junior teams that we have in this country, and I really think that we can go back to back again. When it was what 2021, 2020, when we had two junior teams on the podium.
Yeah, I think it was 2021. It was when Teams Elite had not the dresses that, or 2 years ago, right? Because they had the same dresses but gold last year almost. But it was the year before that. Was the Missy Elliott, was it?
Yeah, well, they had their Missy Elliott program, which also slapped really hard.
Yeah, so
I
good.
loved that.
Okay.
Really?
I agree. I was gonna say we can't count out Team Image. I think like they always serve. I could see them winning nationals potentially if they come out really strong with two programs, but I think unfortunately they've just had not the best luck, like a couple falls at some competitions. Like every time they've gone international, it seems they just don't come out with the strongest skates, unfortunately. So I think that's what's been holding them back. If they really like completely crushed it at both of them, then I could see it being a real toss up for the world team. But also if Sky and Image or Sky and Teams Elite have gone the past few years, they have that like leg up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we're all in the
When I was on Lexets, we didn't go to Junior Worlds my first year. We did my second year. So we didn't go to the Junior World Challenge Cup in 2020. In 2012, we qualified in 2013. I feel so old now, but they always told us that you couldn't be on the same level as the teams that went the year before, but you had to be better than them. So like, and like prove it consistently. So if you were same as when we were trying to qualify for the world team on Sky Senior, it was like, if we were the same level as the teams that were already going, they would get it. But we had to be significantly better like throughout the season in order to prove that we could take that spot away from somebody who had already had the experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Image, we're rooting for you.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of their programs.
Yeah, I like them
they're-
both this year. I think they look very mature, which I like for the junior division as a whole. I think in the past, sometimes it depends on your kids and like, you know, what else is kind of going on. But sometimes I think junior programs, you know, the kids are like sometimes 18, 19 in college, you know, so or like 18 is the cutoff, right? So you're not going to be 19, but you'll be in college. And, you know, if you get your age just right, it's, you know, pushing those older ages versus like the young high school, like just out of middle school, like themes and ages. So I like the mature themes. I think it's been nice to see from junior teams in general. So it's cool. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. And then we have we'll get to senior Elite 12, but we want to get to senior because Elite 12 is kind of like that new category, but there's also only two teams in it. So there's not a whole lot to talk about, but let's talk about senior, the division that we all skated in for a while. I personally skated in senior in a, like not consecutively, but an entire decade in the senior division. So I'm really interested to hear your guys' opinions on like the teams this year, what they look like, and kind of like what do you guys think? Like obviously we know all four of them. You've got Haydenettes, Miami University, Skyliners, and Adrian College. Like, what's y'all's opinion on everything that's going on in senior right now?
Lots of opinions.
There's so much in senior.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I will say that senior is going to end up being probably quite predictable at nationals. It's been very interesting to watch how everything plays out because, like, domestically, Haydenette's obviously being very, very top of the podium. I didn't think they were that mind blowing in the first two events of the season. However, internationally, they have been incredible. Like
Mhm.
they came home, they must have come home from Boston and just went on a tear at practice, and like they like internationally they have just scored so well, so it's been really fun to watch them. Sky, same thing, like they came home from Boston, and like the international event that they've been to so far, they scored so incredibly well. Obviously, like my heart is with Sky, love that team, but like talking with Pam at Easterns, I was like, Pam, like they were so good. And she goes, they just have to do that 2 more times. They just have to skate like that 2 more times. And I was like, I hope they do. Cause like watching the video, you were like, oh my God, like they were so in unison. Their programs are so unique. They're so like, they have this like European style to them, which normally we don't see in the US, which like Hayden definitely has their style. Miami has their style, but like Sky kind of flips in and out of this like junior style that's really soft and like pretty to then like this hard, crazy, like how many tricks can we throw in the next 4 minutes kind of feel, which has been really fun to watch this year.
At first, when I heard that they were skating to Romeo and Juliet, I was like, again, because okay, Sky Senior, I believe their first season was 2011, 2012. Their long program was Romeo and Juliet. And I don't think that Josh is, I think they might have done it for junior in 2005, when Sam was still on the team. But I think that was Romeo and Juliet. I could be wrong though. But I mean, still hasn't done it that recently, at least. Whereas like Les Mis, I'm pretty sure we've all been around for like 4 Skyliners Les Mis programs at least. So I was like, not again. But they have the new one, and I'm obsessed. The music is great. Like they have so many tricks, mind blowing.
Yeah, that one's been fun to watch over the season. At first, I had kind of a similar reaction. I was like, this could be interesting. And just knowing the people on that team still, like, how is this going to play to their strengths? And I think it's come a really long way watching the first time. It was like, wow, always good to have room to grow. Like, you don't want to be perfect right out of the gate. I think that's like one of the worst things that any team could do would be good in October. So I'm really glad Josh and Pam and the whole coaching staff has just like allowed that to grow, and the skaters have grown into it. And I feel like they're doing a really good job. It's going to be exciting to see how that ends up.
Yeah, he definitely took like his inspo from like my last season when I skated with Megan of like our little like stalker theme, and he took that same vibe, but he like switched it up a little bit. So like he started with like, we're gonna go classic Romeo and Juliet, and then we're just gonna break it down and make it incredible. And like, yeah, I big fan. Personally, like when it comes to Miami, I think Miami's programs are really great this year. I think they're super clean, they're super unique. They do have that classic Miami style, which is not a bad thing. They do it really well. However, I think on the international stage, it might not be playing as well, considering the score that they just got for their short program in Poland was not as high as they usually score it. So I'm just curious why they didn't score as well. I mean, it's not that it's a bad score. Like 68 in the short program is not a bad score to get. But for them, it's not as high as they could be, and it's not as high as it was domestically. So I'm just curious, like, where was the disconnect from the judges panel and like the tech side, if there was any tech issues? Like, what was the disconnect? Because their programs are always really clean. And actually, I think this year, both of their programs are quite interesting and more interesting than they have been in the past, personally speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting too. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I think their dresses this year also like add a little bit more. Sometimes I think they're, not as like color choices, or just, I don't know, like I'm always like kind of wanting a little bit more in the past couple seasons. I think particularly, I think maybe a little bit of bias of prior to COVID, like our teams were the ones that we were on together, the ones where we had the opportunity to go to Worlds, and then the teams after that ended up being the Miami teams going after. I was like always kind of like, oh, I just wanted like one little change to the dress or one little change to the program or something that was like, I think this would make it more special. Not that they were bad or that they weren't the team that deserved to go. I think at that time they showed up, they put out, and they were the ones that should have gone on those events. But this year, I think it's a little bit more special for them. What was it 2 years ago when they had the one that was, it was their long and it was like the crystal pieces that were like the mirrors. I think that one was good. But I forget what their whole theme was, but I remember them skating lights out at nationals. It was like so great.
I remember being at nationals being like, damn, they skated really well.
Yeah.
Crap.
I'm so excited to see nationals though, because between Sky and Miami, like we all know Hayden's gonna be USA 1. So, we don't know, but like they've been performing so well this season. I think it's a done deal. But yeah, between Sky and Miami, I think it's going to be a complete toss up. At first, at the beginning of the season, I was, obviously we're rooting for Sky just because, we were all on there. But I think was Sky ahead in the short, but then Miami won overall in the first competition of the season. But then Sky went out and beat Marigold in the short at their first international, which I was like, oh my God, like they're back in the game. Cause I was like almost afraid that they were just gonna be like, well, we're counting ourselves out now, like Miami beat us. But they have been fighting, they have been putting out, and their international scores, I believe in both programs, have been higher. So it'll be interesting to see them at their last competition. And then Miami still though is like, I really like their long program. Those dresses are gorgeous too. And between again, it's with Carla leaving, that's also going to be an interesting twist, I think, because I think it's in everybody's mind, like what's going to happen with that. Is she going to get one last year on the world team? I don't want to say that's going to factor into it. I think it's going to be purely based on whoever's better skating, but it's going to be an interesting factor because everyone's also going to be rooting for them and supporting them, just so like last season, who wouldn't want to see that? Because that'd be like, like full circle, it'd be really nice. Also Miami, I think even though they're in, what is it, maybe 5th or 6th right now after the short in Poland, but they have a 68. I believe Nova has a 69 and Nexus has a 70 or a 71 right now in the short.
Something like that.
Yeah, but I think Nova beat Nexus at Canadians, if I'm not mistaken. So it's also going to be interesting to see how the Canadian world team unfolds. And then maybe the US will be able to move up a spot and USA 2 can beat one of the Canadian teams at Worlds this year.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
That would be amazing.
All right, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the last senior team, Adrian College. Not that, well, most of people probably know, those of you listening to the podcast are probably like, we don't really know who you are. But I coached Adrian College last year, just for a season. I retired obviously in 2022 and I tried my hand at coaching synchro. And I, not to like toot my own horn, but I think I was pretty okay at it. We had a coaching change. I decided to leave. And I think they've had a little bit of a rough season this year, to say the least. Not that like there's anything wrong with what's going on at Adrian. I think that the coaching change has really just been really difficult for them. For the first season though, however, for the first time in program history, Adrian College made their way into the ISP selection pool and got a chance to go to monitoring, which I thought was really, really cool this year. A couple of the kids reached out after and was like, that was such a fun time. Like we learned so much. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, they have had a little bit of a rough season when it comes to performing and putting their programs out there. So I'm curious what you guys think about Adrian College this year.
Well, I think at the end of the day, anybody who skates past the age of like 12 wants to do well. Like you're not in this sport for the money or the glory to an extent. Like there's always accolades and things that you're trying to go after. But at the end of the day, you just like want to go out there, skate your best, be proud of what you're putting out. And nobody ever gets into the sport to, just like not have some kind of return on investment. Like it's a very expensive sport. You put a lot of time and money into it, whether it's you or your parents, to whoever's listening to this. So I think my heart goes out to the kids a little bit from a personal side of like being on teams where I felt like I wasn't the right fit on the team, or the team wasn't the right fit for me, or I had disagreements with, anybody involved. Like that's always a really hard place to be in. And I just like would want the best for those kids, whether I was part of the coaching staff or on the team, and for them to not be rewarded for the work that they put in over the last like decade of working. Like obviously the kids on the team now weren't the ones on it 10 years ago, but that club and that association has taken a long time to accelerate to where they were. And so now for them, I feel like to not be rewarded for the work that they have put in past seasons must be hard. And also when you're choosing to go somewhere for college to go skate, I feel like I can speak from this too. And, you know, anybody who skates through college is you're trying to make the best choice for both your academic career and your skating career. And when those two things don't align, it's really frustrating. So, you know, you're making sacrifices to like choose to go to somewhere where you might not have gone if you weren't skating. So I think that's like another hard kind of piece of the conversation. And, you know, I just hope the kids who are there, whatever happens with coaching, whatever happens with them, like that at the end of the day, they're just like still proud of what they put out. You know, it might not be the result you wanted. You might not be in the place that you wished you were this season, but I just, you know, hope that they still like stand out there proudly. And like not everybody gets to skate at senior and not everybody gets to train at facilities like Adrian has. And that part is special and you will like take that with you for the rest of your life. So just stick together, and the friends you make along the way are some of the best people you'll ever meet. Like I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have my times, you know, going through rough places. So just stay hopeful.
Absolutely agree with you, Alice. And I will say that I think that I'm sure that for the girls that are juniors and seniors there, like going through 3 coaching changes in 3 years is probably hard, because I'm sure everybody has like everybody's personality is different. So some people probably bond with one coach better. Some people bond with another coaching style better. So, and like, once you get to know somebody, then if that changes, I'm sure it's a little bit harder for the girls to adapt to different styles. Cause even like, I know that like at Skyliners, and I think this is one of the things that Dana brought there last year, like your arms are always in Christmas tree positions, you know, like 45-degree angle out from your sides rather than being like up at parallel. And I believe this year they're back up at parallel because Amanda was skating at Hayden. Like that was an adjustment for me going to Skyliners, but I was there for 5 years. So all of the little nuances that each coach brings to the table, as small as those details are, it does like affect the skaters, and those little things can kind of build up. But I will say that as disappointing as their initial show was this season, I think we can all agree that it was not exactly what they wanted. They've definitely been improving a lot throughout the season. And like, I think the last competition they had, we saw a huge jump from them at Porter. So I'm really hoping that they don't give up, they keep fighting. And then at nationals, they can come out, and by no means can they not get themselves back into the ISP for next year, can keep working hard and get themselves right back to where they wanted to be. So really hoping for the best for them. Love the work ethic. Keep it up, guys. You got this.
Yeah, I would agree. Like anything can happen at nationals. Like, yes, the beginning of the season may not have started the way that they had hoped or the way that they would wanted. However, you can come out at nationals and you can blow everybody away, and they could be like, oh my God, like where did they come from? And that's probably what they're doing when they're training at home, trying to, you know, work on their programs and make everything good. Like you said, like Porter was pretty good for them. Like they had 2 decent showings for their programs. Scores went up from Boston, which is fantastic. But yeah, like the goal is to just to come out at nationals and forget that the beginning half of the season happened, and you want people to remember how you finished the season, not necessarily how you started it. So
Definitely.
Again,
yeah.
No one's trying to peak in November. So like
Yeah.
nationals, and I don't think they've competed since Porter, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they went to mids or not. I don't think they did. So they've had all these months just to keep drilling things, really making all those improvements. And like when you go to competitions, you don't really have a whole lot of practice time. So whereas a lot of other teams are kind of missing that time, and they only get, you know, like a half-hour practice here and there during the competition week, Adrian can spend all of those days drilling and practicing and preparing and perfecting. So I'm really hoping they come out super strong at nationals.
Agreed.
Me too. Yay.
And our last event, Senior Elite 12, but Alice has to go because she has like adult things that she needs to do. So she's gonna go be an adult, and Casey and I are gonna recap our last little division of Elite 12. But Alice, thank you for coming onto our podcast. We loved having you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so much fun. I'm sure I'll be back. And have fun. I can't wait to listen to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so Elite 12. I feel like there's not all that much to unpack with Elite 12. We have Hayden Elite now in their third season, the only team to have made it through all 3 seasons. I believe they were the only team the first year. Last year was them and Crystalettes. And then this year it's them and Hawkettes.
Yes.
Personally, I was disappointed that Hawkettes did not receive an international this year because both teams did not hit the score prior to at the first competition of Boston. Neither team hit the qualifying score. And then I think how it worked this year, Hayden went to Canada and then Hawkettes went to Porter because that's their competition. And both of them did hit the minimum qualifying score. Both of them exceeded the minimum qualifying score. However, the only team that got an international was Hayden Select. Hawkettes were not given one, which I thought was
I thought that kind of sucked because
I like their programs.
Yeah, like I watched them at Porter because I was there and I thought their programs were much better than they were at in Boston. So like from my understanding, I think what like the way that it was selected for like the status or whatever to be Team USA, because obviously in the ISP or the international selection pool, it's an opportunity for you to be selected, but there's no guarantee you'll be selected. So like teams know that going in. But so they knew like, okay, like we have the opportunity, we got to just hit our score and see what happens. But I thought that they were quite good. And my guess is that when they sent off the videos to like different panels, because I think they were trying to do a neutral panel, but obviously the teams compete and like in the environment. When they sent them off to the neutral panel, there was just, I guess, things that they didn't like, and that they needed to stay home and work at, which is kind of unfortunate because, like you said, like they hit the score, but again, going into it, it's like you can't always guarantee that you're going to get that spot. Like it was the same thing last year at Adrian. Like, yeah, we squeaked by the score at Boston last year, and we like hoped and prayed when we got back to school was like, I hope we make an international, and then we were fortunate enough to get the call last year. But it's personally speaking, I think it's unfortunate that Hawkettes were not able to go international this year. So
yeah, I really would have liked to see them, especially because there's only 2 Elite 12 teams in the country. I think is it only 3 in the world this season. So it would have been really nice to have a bigger field just to kind of promote that division, because if there's only one team at the competition, then like it's just an exhibition. I don't know what team or what competition Hayden Elite did go to or is going to. I haven't been too up to date on Elite 12.
I think it's French Cup.
Okay. Oh, so this weekend. Awesome.
Yes.
But I really want to see Hawkettes come and absolutely destroy it at nationals. I'm sure they've been working really hard. They look amazing for their practice schedule. For those of you who don't know, I think they practice 2 weekends a month or every other weekend, essentially. So they have people coming in from really far away, but that just love the sport. So compared to, I believe Hayden practices a lot more often. So to kind of be a team that's like a lot of people that are just so passionate about the sport, not saying Hayden's not, they definitely are too, but to like spend your weekends traveling into Michigan in order to skate and being able to pull together such a strong program and such a like incredible looking team, like props to them.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of like our recap on all the teams. Our goal was kind of just to like lay out what teams we have that are juniors and seniors in Elite 12 that like we're going to end up talking about throughout the season. In our next episode, we'll probably go through and like recap all of the internationals. We did a little bit of like recapping on this one about like what happened domestically and just like sprinkled in like what's happened internationally so far. But on our next episode, we'll definitely deep dive into what the international season looked like and kind of like how everything laid out. Hopefully by the next one, we'll have even more of an understanding of like who might end up on the world team for juniors and seniors. Again, we have our predictions, but you know how everything goes. There's no guarantee that what we think is going to happen will actually happen. So
skating is the most unpredictable, like predictable, but unpredictable sport. You never know, like junior and below, people can just fall apart. You never know. I was on lax sets and I think we had 5 falls in Italy, this competition after we qualified for Worlds. So you never know. But let us know what you guys think. Leave us comments or whatever, or anything you want us to talk about. And we will come back to you with our nationals predictions and everything else in between. Also play Fantasy Synchro. So you can literally let us know your predictions. And we'll also try and talk about novice and intermediate next time too, because I love novice. I skated 7 years of novice, best division. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. See you later, guys.